Hi everyone. So this week I'll be answering uh, Cody uh, Kostenbader. I apologize if I butchered your name, Cody. Um, Cody asks, do you think depicting the region of Greek Macedonia in chains was something that should have resulted in refusal of offers to conclude a treaty? Do you think that the Greek government overreacted when assuming this was a measure of a hostile intention? And I don't really think it's an overreaction. I really only think there's one way that you can interpret something like that, and it's not a favorable interpretation by any way that you look at it. I don't think so. Um, I really don't know what they could have been expecting was as a reaction. I was trying to think of an analogy for, say, abolishing slavery in this country. Um, if in order to be granted your freedom, as a slave, let's say maybe um, you had to sign a piece of paper, but it wasn't good enough to sign that piece of paper. You had to be wearing, full chains and have your ankles shackled, and then you could sign the paper. But unless you were wearing those chains and sign the paper with those chains on, you wouldn't get your freedom. So it seems harmless enough to say, oh, sure, just put the chains on, sign the piece of paper, you're good enough to go, you're a free man. But it's the symbol behind that act which is significant. Symbols are very powerful things, whether it's a building, whether it's a bell, whether it's a flag. Symbols are important to people, and people identify with symbols. So trying to force that identity on somebody in the form of a symbol is certainly, I can understand why that would be seen as a hostile act. Um, if I was trying to become a free slave, 200 years ago, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, you can be free, but just put these chains on," I'd say, well, I'd sure not prefer to put those chains back on and just sign the piece of paper and go on my way. Just like I'm sure every person who ever saw that map would say, "Gee, I really don't think that was necessary. You didn't really have to put those chains on that map, did you?" So yeah, I can understand why that would be perceived as a hostile act, and I don't think that there's any basis for an act like that. So thanks for your question, Cody. That was an interesting um, sort of point that you extracted from the readings. It was interesting. I hadn't thought about sort of the significance of the symbol, but I'm glad you asked about it because it made me think about it in a different way. So thanks, Cody. Great question.